Welcome to the Midnight Entrepreneur. I'm your host, Easton Bennett, alongside my fellow co-host, Tyler Sinden. We are both entrepreneurs who are learning, growing, and building our own businesses, and our goal is to share our experiences and knowledge with you to help you grow and become a successful entrepreneur. Strap in. Tyler back, another recording session. Good topic today. What's going on, man?
Yes, we are. Not too much, Easton. We're, just trying to go through the motions, trying new stuff out and seeing how everything goes. What about you? What's going on with you?
Well, I'm just working on a couple new podcasts. I'm sitting in a new set, obviously, the third set that I've been in while filming this podcast, but I'm thinking this one might be more of the main set now. First one's at my desk, a little bit clunky. Next one, close to my desk. Now we're down in the basement. So there might be a little reverb this episode. Got to get some furniture in here, some set design behind me, but, we're rocking and rolling with what we got. Other than that, not a ton. I know we were talking this week about, how would you phrase it, leads coming in, whether there are any more leads coming in for me. And right after we had that conversation, I had like 3 or 4 people reach out. So I'm like,
really? Through your website, or how'd they reach out?
One of them was an existing client already, so they just want to do another project. The other one was a website. They're some company out of, I don't even know where, but they have a client here, need some drone shots. And then another one was someone that I semi-knew. So that was kind of in the works already. But yeah, that happened, which is nice. It's funny how the world works. Works in mysterious ways, they say.
When you try to, what's that word where you like affirm or not?
No, you manifest.
Yeah, manifest. You're manifesting it. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm looking for. I just couldn't find it.
Yeah, I was
looking in the wrong places.
Honestly, I was like, God, I should. After we talked about it, I was like, I haven't had a lot of new people reach out lately. And then literally 2 days later, I'm like, bink, just talk about it and it happens. So now we talked about me getting a Vegas client. So hopefully that's the next thing to manifest itself. Yeah. Someone from Vegas is like, fly out here, shoot some stuff for us.
Do you do any manifestations?
Not really. But I think I'm going to start trying it. I don't know. I was talking to my sister about this, and she's like, it works. And I'm like, we'll see.
Yeah. I feel like it does. It's the concept of what you focus on, you're going to, see more of. It's the same concept when you get a new car and you're like, no one has this car. And then once you get it, that's all you see type of deal. And I think that's somewhat what you focus on. You're going to look in these areas on where you're wanting more leads. You're going to look in these areas to find more leads.
Oh, 100%. And now I'm going to start looking at places in Vegas. Because my goal, the first time that actually came up of why I wanted to have a Vegas client was I went to Vegas, obviously this summer, and I went to the show Absinthe. And it was like this raunchy comedy, and they do acrobats and flip up in the air. And it was a really cool show, like awesome. And I was like, God, how do I get Absinthe as my client? Like, how do I figure out how to get, obviously that wouldn't be my first client in Vegas, but how do I somehow within the next 10 years, lock in this client or a client like this? And that got my brain turning a little bit. And then I listened to a podcast yesterday on a HR person that's in Vegas. So it's an HR person for like all the gambling, all the casinos and everything, and hiring and everything.
That person's life's probably hell.
Oh, God, I know. And she was talking about, someone asked the question if the media teams are in-house for either Caesars or MGM or whatever it might be. And she said a lot of it is third party. So I'm like, gosh, look at that. That's an easy way to get. I don't know how you'd get in there with the Caesars Entertainment, but it is nice that it is external. So people outsource that kind of stuff instead of having internal
You at least
teams.
know that. I feel like a lot of people do outsource it because, if you have someone internally, you have to keep them constantly occupied, where it's just easier to, do one-off jobs for that. I feel like a lot of different services are like that, and then you don't even have to pay for, that employee, and then all the benefits and everything that goes attached with it, having the employees.
Yeah, that's a lot of the stuff that I actually tried to pitch clients when I was like, hey, sign me for a retainer because you don't have to pay them benefits and you don't have to keep them busy and you don't have to buy all the equipment. So that is definitely something that I've talked about with clients before, but it's a benefit for sure, but it's also a con sometimes if you need a lot of stuff done.
You think you'll start running ads, or because I feel like you either need to be there and have the connections to get those clients in Vegas, or the only other way I can really think of is through ads or your extremely good presence on say YouTube, Instagram, showing
Yeah.
off your work that people talk about. So what are your ideas there?
I think the idea is to reach out to Vegas companies that aren't necessarily casino related or strip related or quote unquote Vegas related. You know what I mean? There might
Yep.
be an engineering firm or something. So actually, one of my buddies lives in Vegas and his dad has an engineering firm. So that might be a way where I could get in there and just do something. But I think initially I might have to make somewhat of an investment to go to Vegas. I might have to cover my own flights. I might have to bring my own stuff and just go shoot stuff for really discounted rate or whatever, just to get my name that, oh, this is a person that does stuff in this city.
Would you do it pro bono or would you
I,
just discount it?
I mean, I would do it pro bono if I
Yeah.
had to, just to even get a
In the
client
door.
in that. Yeah, you know what I mean? So even if maybe I take a week and a half trip to Vegas and I line
Uh-huh.
up 6 shoot days with 6 different companies,
That'd
yeah,
be
it's going to
sweet.
be a lot of pro bono work. But once you get those 6 different companies, if you do good work, they obviously have friends in Vegas, and then you're like, oh, we have this person. He's actually from North Dakota, which I wonder if what the stigma is on, yeah, we have a media guy, but he doesn't live here.
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah. I feel like they would like local, but at the same time, I think that all they care about is quality. If you can, and how you are as a person,
And
I think it's,
logistics.
yeah, it depends if you bake it into your price or not, but I think that relationship could be huge.
And I think you might have to do a discount. So even let's say I get a client, let's say it's a coffee shop, best coffee shop in Vegas. Got a hair on my mic here. Best coffee shop in Vegas. And let's say if I'd usually charge someone in Minot $2,000 to do this thing, I would just charge them $1,500. My profit's $1,500 and just bake in the $500 for travel, whatever it might be.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm taking less of a cut, but I'm not charging them any more than what I would charge my Minot clients. And then once you get a little bit more established in that city, you can start being, okay, it's this price plus my travel, or just start baking it in.
Yeah. It seems like depending on the client that you're able to get, you might be able to get bigger clients there that are willing to pay more. Because when you're in Minot, you're dealing with a lot of smaller companies, I'm assuming,
Mm-hmm.
and they're not really willing to spend, say, $10,000, $15,000 on a project. So I
Yeah.
think it gives you quite a bit more wiggle room with what you can do, and I think it would be a pretty cool project, and I'll be there helping.
Yeah, honestly, I'll fly out. I wonder if the only thing I wonder about is my gear. You know what I mean? How do you travel with all that stuff? That's a lot of shit that I usually bring to a shoot. So if you can
Yeah.
somehow minimize that, or if there's a rental house or something there, but then that adds more cost too. Because I'm not worried about lodging, because for being a degenerate gambler, I have free rooms at any Vegas casino. But that, and then obviously you have transportation when you're there. How do you get places? So there's
Just
a lot
drive
of,
the BCM van around.
honestly, driving from North Dakota to just ship it there.
It's a
Can you
little
fly my
roadie.
van there?
Maybe
yeah.
maybe you try and line stuff up on the way too. So maybe you're going like through all those, maybe South Dakota, Colorado.
It's actually not a
Vegas,
horrible idea, dude.
Yeah, do a little. Basically, go on the road and you're a traveling videographer. That'd be pretty sweet.
That actually would be, there we go. I'm gonna do it now. I'm gonna
That's our
find
business idea.
the best. Yeah, we'll talk about this at the end, guys. We did it a little bit early, but yeah, just find like the best route to Vegas, and then contact a bunch of companies on the way there and be like, hey, I can shoot on this day, and then the next day after that, okay, now I'm shooting in Idaho or wherever I'm at. I don't know what geography is my
That'd
worst
be fun.
subject, but
Same.
not a horrible idea. Not a horrible idea.
There you go. I was
But
thinking.
a little too much Vegas talk. We can maybe get into that a little bit at the end. Anything else you want to touch on before we get into this week's topic, Tyler?
So I think I'm doing one thing that might tie into what we're currently doing. I wanted to try something new out because I was often finding myself really tired. And what I noticed is that when I take naps, my sleep at night is a lot worse. I will toss and turn. My shoulders often will, they're just hurting just because I get poor sleep and I'm sleeping on my side because I can't fall asleep if I take a nap during the day.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, I do my best to avoid taking naps. And then that leads to me being tired throughout the day. And what I've been finding recently is I don't have enough time in the day to do everything that I want to do. And also after dinner, I'm finding myself really tired and just demotivated to not really do anything. So what I decided to try and do is just nap and sleep basically whenever I'm tired. So I don't have a bedtime, or I don't go to bed at a specific time where I feel like you might know how I was with my sleep regimen. It was pretty, exact. It was like bed at this time, wake up at this time,
Yep.
pretty much every single day. So now I'll take a nap throughout the day, maybe two, and then at night I'll, only sleep a few hours. So it's a little bit different, and I think it ties into the topic. So
Yeah, and that's something I was super interested to touch more on when you texted me that. It's how have you found, has it been better ever since you started doing this?
so yeah, one thing that I wanted to measure was my productivity levels, and it's tough to measure it, but I don't think my productivity has increased. It might a little bit, just because, say so the first day I woke up at 2 in the morning AM, and I'm like, what the hell am I going to do at 2 AM? So yeah, it was the first day, and then I ended up like passing out again, and then I woke up at 3. So then I got up at that time. I'm like, okay, I'm getting up now. And from 2, or not 2, 3 till about 4:30, I like went to work and I just got stuff done. So that's something that I normally wouldn't be doing, because normally I would wake up at 5, stretch, run,
Yeah,
whatever, and then I would basically go into work. So I got up at 3, got a bunch of stuff done before I actually started doing anything. Then I went into my normal morning. So
good
there
Lord.
is like, yeah, there is some, because like I'll take a nap at, say, 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock at night, and then I'll wake up at 8 or 9. And then basically from 9 till midnight, 1 o'clock, there's not much to do at that time.
Yeah.
So
Do you
people aren't
find
really up.
do you find when you nap, usually after every nap you wake up and you want to get something done?
Oh, for sure. What I'm noticing is so I used to only wake up once, because I would go to bed at 9, wake up at 5, and I was really good at turning my alarm off, getting out of bed right away, and then going downstairs, starting my day. And what I'm noticing a little bit with napping is I might go on my phone a little bit once I wake up, because like I'm a little bit tired, and I'll go on my phone a little bit, and that's one thing that I'm not a fan of. But after, let's say, 5 minutes, I'm waking up a little bit. I get off my phone and then I start working, because I feel a lot more recharged compared to right before I took my nap. Because before my nap, I'm obviously really tired, don't feel like doing anything. So it gives me a little energy boost.
Yeah, and that's where, gosh, I love naps. Like naps are my favorite, but a lot of times I'll wake up and I'll be like, "Ugh, I just want to take another nap." And I don't know if that's because my nap's not good enough or what the feeling is, but
Yeah.
naps are
Yeah.
deadly for
I
me.
have that a lot too, but with me, it's weird. The longest I can honestly nap for is like 30 to 60 minutes. My body will not nap any longer than that. So basically, my naps throughout the day are quick power naps between like 20 and 60 minutes. I don't, I haven't woken up to an alarm since I started doing this. And that's the most interesting thing, because I have woken I've woken up earlier every single day than I usually do at 5. So the latest I've woken up at is 4:45, and I've not had an alarm.
Really?
Earliest was 2, but then I went back to sleep till 3. So
Yeah.
basically between 3 and 4:45 is the times I've been waking up, which is really interesting.
I think you're just lucky because if I did that, I'd go to bed at 11 and wake up
I
at
wouldn't call it
11.
luck.
I would sleep for
Yeah,
12 hours. My body's like, perfect. Thank you for putting me in this coma. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
I don't
I
know.
wouldn't call it luck, but I think I've trained my body. But at the same time, it's when I take these naps, I don't know. It's just I've always been like that, because when I do take before I was doing this, if I take a nap, I'm gonna sleep shit at night, and I'll try and like stay in that same routine. So I'll try to go to sleep at 9, and I won't be able to fall asleep. So I'm just laying in bed for the next hour or two trying to fall asleep, and I can't because I took a nap earlier. And then
Yeah.
it usually just leads to a poor sleep that night, where I either toss and turn all night, or I wake up in the middle of the night. So I think it's just my body's been accustomed to it and adapted over time.
I think it helps that you've trained yourself to, you woke up for how long at 5 a.m. every day, where now your body's used to that. So when you do get tired, like if I tried it right now, I probably might not get tired till 12 or 1 in the morning. just because I don't go to bed early, and I haven't been for the last 2-3 years. There was a little stint when I woke up at like 6, but I got over that
days.
quickly. That's because I worked at 7, but yeah. But no, yeah, that's very interesting. I might try that, but I'm just worried I might go into a deep, dark coma for a good 16 hours and be like, shit, what day is it? I gotta get to work.
Yeah, I think the only downfall I've found is you're gonna be alone a lot more, because like a lot of the times I'm up in the middle of the night and people aren't really up at that time. You're not going to be texting anyone, or it might take away from you hanging out with other people. So that's one thing that I've noticed, but at the same time I'm pretty alone. So
The no people texting me or trying to contact me would be wonderful. And that's the one thing when I did wake up early in the morning that I did enjoy. When I used to wake up at, I think it was 6, and then I would do breakfast and kind of hang out until 6:30 or 7, and then start working. But it was nice because no one was texting me, no one was Snapchatting me, no one was emailing me, no one was calling me, nothing. Not even the scammers were awake, So it was sweet. No one would try to contact me. Oh, exactly. And so I could get more stuff done, whereas now there's so many distractions. It's like ridiculous, which I think I need to work on getting rid of my distractions. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I got to figure it out.
Use focus mode. Do you? I think you do. You always have your notifications on silence.
Yeah, here and there, but not all the time. I need to do a work one, I think. You know how you can set up like the work and the home and the whatever. I'll maybe set up a work one after this and try that. But my brain is too powerful where I'll just willingly turn it off and be like, I don't care.
Yeah, I feel you.
Yeah, I'll be like, I don't care.
I started doing that with my work one too.
And I had screen time where it's like you get 2 hours a day. Every day it pops up. I'm like, ignore. I don't care.
Busy guy.
Need to be more disciplined. I need to read a book on discipline. So if you have any recommendations, just throw them to me.
The Slight Edge.
There you go. Slight Edge. I'm going to order it tonight. But 18 minutes in, let's probably get into our topic here a little bit. Hustle culture. We want to talk about our thoughts on hustle culture. This is not, you don't have to live by this, but this is kind of what we think about it. Because we have both started businesses where we've had to grind. We've had to get after it. And we get into that mantra where everyone's like, oh my gosh, you got to work 40 hours a day to be successful and rich. Well, we're not rich. So maybe, maybe our thoughts are
wrong.
Yeah, maybe our thoughts are wrong. But hustle culture, what is your kind of take on hustle culture, Tyler, in general?
Yeah, I think I used to believe a lot of what you're saying there, where, you got to work those 40 hours. That's what a lot of these people were preaching. You got to constantly grind and screw your family. Don't do anything. Don't have fun. All you're allowed to do is work. And I think I tried doing that. And what I ended up doing was maybe not focusing on the right tasks. So I'm just trying to ignore everything. So I'm basically saying no to life, and I just want to work. And what I end up doing is trying to fill it with tasks, and I'm filling it with the wrong tasks.
Just meaningless tasks.
Exactly. It's like, it's trying to make myself feel like I'm doing something. And like I'm productive or busy or grinding 24/7.
I've fell into that mantra before too, where it's like, oh, I got to do this. It's like, does this work even get you anywhere though? Or you could just sit on the couch and maybe, watch TV for a half hour instead of doing something stupid that's not going to get because I got into the same thing where it's like, I need to be doing something 24/7. If I'm awake and I'm not working, someone else is getting ahead. And it's like, it's just so backwards, I think. And that's a lot of people get stuck in that when they start.
Yeah, I think so too. But at the same time, I feel like it's helping you train yourself for those tough times, because I feel like inevitably it might happen when you are starting a business where you might need to have those, 16-hour days, and you were able to train yourself and you're like, oh, this is nothing. I used to do this when I first started out.
100%.
But the difference will be when you were starting out, you might not be doing those good high priority tasks or needle moving tasks. Whereas now you are doing those, and it's actually moving your business forward, which could be extremely beneficial.
And you have to look at the goal. Like, what is it? If I'm working all these hours instead of hanging out with my friends or, going out to eat with my family or something, you know what I mean? That's a bad example. Go out to eat with your family. They might die one day. But doing these things, you're trading off, hanging out or going to watch a football game or something. What's the benefit? What's the goal of doing it? If it's not really going to benefit you, then, do something whatever you want to do. If you want to work, then work. If you want to go with your friends, don't force yourself not to. But there are times, like you said, that you're just going to have to work longer. Like I'm in one of those stages right now where it's like, I got to work a lot right now because I have a lot on my plate.
Uh-huh.
And because I've started way too many things. I got my hand caught in way too many cookie jars. And now I'm like, ugh. But that's how it goes sometimes. No, I'd never. I'd rather just work 120 hours a week.
Go against what we're saying right now.
Yeah. Do as we do, not as we say.
Yeah.
I don't want to scare our audience.
Seems like it. I think one thing that I heard was Warren Buffett makes 2 really good decisions a year, and that's all he does. And I think that just relates back to doing those really high priority tasks, and that's might be all you need. And one thing that I'm hearing a lot is, just do 5 of your most important tasks. If you get that done at 10 a.m., you have the rest of the day to do whatever you want. You don't have to be grinding nonstop. And I think consistency is much better than working, I think at the same time when you are grinding, say 24/7, you're going to end up burning out. And that's one thing that you don't really want to do. You want to be able to do it over a consistent period of time because it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. So you want to be able to have yourself do it for a long extended period of time. And if you're not able to do that because you're working these really long hours, you're burning yourself out, I think you might want to tone it back a little bit to go at a pace where you're able to do it for a consistent period of time.
I definitely had that happen to me where I hit a point where I was working a shit ton and it felt great. I had a bunch of energy and I'm like, this is awesome. And it's really when I started the 2 podcasts. I started the business podcast and I was like, people wanted to be on the show. I was lining everything up and I was working from, my 9 to 5 with clients and all that work. And then from 5 to 9, I was working on the podcast and getting all that stuff done. And I told someone about it, one of my, not a client, but someone I work with. And they're like, hey man, sounds awesome. Like keep doing it, but don't burn yourself out. And I was like, I won't, this is awesome. And then I got to a point a couple weeks later and I was like, this is so much work. It's like, I haven't done anything for fun in 2 or 3 weeks and you do burn yourself out. So even if you don't think you're going to burn out, there will come a point when you're like, wow, I just need a break.
I think that's a good point to bring up. When you're starting something new, you get a lot of excitement in doing that new project. You're like, oh, this is so much fun. I love doing this. And it's something new. Whereas once you start doing it for an extended period of time, you're all of a sudden not saying it's not new anymore and you're not having as much fun.
It becomes mundane.
Is that pretty much what happened to you? You find out?
Yeah, that's why I moved sets so much. Now I'm in this set and I'm like,
scenery.
this is fun. I'm in a different space. I can, look around at all the blank walls. But no, I think that's why I start a lot of projects and then get bored of them, which is not a great trait to have. But even like writing short films or spec commercials, I like to write them, plan everything, do it. And then I shoot it and I'm like, I don't want to edit this. I'm kind of over it. I already know what it looks like in my head. It's good enough. And that's, even the podcast. Yeah. And I've interviewed 26 people on my business podcast. And after you ask very similar questions 26 weeks in a row, it's like, man, like a lot of it's just reoccurring answers, networking, this, that. And I'm grateful for the people that come on and tell their story, but it is difficult sometimes to switch it up. And I think that's one thing that is super important is you got to find ways to make it new, make it fresh again.
Are you finding any ways to, do that with say the podcast or maybe your business or maybe, so one thing that I've heard, I don't think you can do it because you have a desktop or you got a studio.
Yep.
Going to new environments, say going to a coffee shop to work. So it's just switching up the environments. Do you do any of that stuff or with your clients, your business, whatever?
Not when it's like working at a desk. Cause I remember when I told you this, when I got my new computer, new desk and everything, I was super pumped. I was like, this computer's awesome. And now the computer is boring. Like it's whatever. And it helps
Yeah.
doing these shows and these things we're doing online, like this podcast, the other two podcasts. The Three Dudes one is nice because it's a new topic every week. It's random every week. So those are some things I've switched up. But with clients, one thing I've started to do is if I have an idea, just do it right away. I'm done overthinking things. So like we had Denise Linbo, I interviewed her, and she owns Gourmet Chef downtown, and they sell cooking supplies and they do cooking classes and stuff. And I texted her and I was like, hey, have you ever thought about doing like a cooking show yourself? Like just do a cooking show like they have, Rachel Ray. She had this cooking show and do all that. And instead of thinking like, well, how could I text this to her, inform it in the right way, where I used to do that, where it's like, how can I try to get her to do this? I'm just a text and ask and then forget about it. If it works, awesome. If not, and that just has allowed me to do more things, try more things, say more things. And hopefully, that's going to bring more, not success, but more opportunities, new, fresh ideas. So yeah, that's one thing I've been trying to do is just do things.
Were you trying to get her to do that and then have you video it for her? Is that what you were trying to do?
Yeah, I mean, the goal is like, hey, if you have a show, I'll produce the show for you and then for your audience. But another thing is that I used to be very concrete and like, hey, I'm going to do the show, but I got to somehow figure out how to make her pay me, that kind of thing. Where now my idea behind that is let's do cool things. I'll use all the time I have. If it starts to get to a point where, I'm doing too much work for free or whatever it might be, I'll have to dial it back. But if I say, hey, let's do the show, and she's like, oh my gosh, that's an awesome idea, but I have no money for it, which she hasn't said that, but let's in this scenario, she says that, then I'll be like, oh, well, let's just do 5 episodes for free. If it works out, awesome. We can talk about doing more. If not, then whatever, or, stuff like that. And I even bartering, like I've realized bartering is a thing now. I think we talked about that on a previous episode, maybe.
Yeah,
So my flooring in my basement, I called the guy and I was like, hey,
yeah.
Can I have some flooring? And I'll give you video stuff. And it's just asking people. And maybe the whole framework around it is just ask. But yeah, that's one thing I've been trying to do is just be more loosey-goosey. Just go with the flow. Instead of I need to cold call people. And it's mentally freeing. Instead of like text messages all the time, I would leave a text message unopened. And I'm like, once I have time to read that and formulate a sentence, I'll open it and answer it. Well, then I don't open it for 2.5 weeks. And now I just see a text, open it, reply whatever's on my head, which has been better.
You're that kind of guy.
Oh, 100%. Horrible guy to be.
Brutal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I don't answer you something. Like your text you sent me yesterday?
Yeah.
It wasn't open. I opened it today on your text today, and I was like, oh, shit. I forgot to open that yesterday.
Not annoying at all.
Yeah, so now I'm gonna fix it, Tyler, just for you, man.
Perfect. I appreciate that.
But yeah, I mean, that got a little off topic on hustle culture, but it's fun to just do new things,
Yeah, I think that helps bring new life into what you're doing. But at the same time, talking about doing new things, I don't think you want to, when you're starting or focusing on a business or whatever it may be, you don't want to start doing new projects and keep bouncing back and forth like that shiny object. But it is good to incorporate something new where it gives you a little bit of motivation. And like what you said, buying your studio probably gave you a little bit of motivation. Maybe you're motivated by money, maybe you're motivated by food, maybe it's just rewarding yourself for doing certain things. And then I got my laptop too, and I was it's improved my like workflow and everything so much more.
Yeah,
it's funny now because it would always sound like there's a plane going off, and now it's completely silent. I'm like, oh, this is like just that alone is so much better. Yeah,
so much peace.
And it's funny because whenever I plug in my external, the only noise I hear is from my external. It's not even from my laptop anymore. So it's funny.
You got to get a new external now, and you'd be the quietest man in Toronto.
Windsor, but sure.
Windsor. Tomato, right? Toronto. But yeah, I mean, one thing we have on our list here is the long game. So that's one thing that I want to touch on. Long game, really the only reason you need to hustle for 16 hours a day for 5 years straight, it's like a lot of it comes down to a deadline, Are you hustling because you have to get something done within this week or within next week, or you have a goal at the end of the year you have to finish, or really can you focus on the long term? You can hustle and you can work hard and do the right things, but if you don't have anything, like if you don't have a deadline to hit next week, why are you working so hard?
Yeah, that makes sense. I think at the same time, having those goals keeps you, motivated to move forward and pushing yourself to achieve that. But at the same time, I'm terrible at this, but rewarding yourself, I think like my laptop is good. I know someone at work said whenever they finish something, they reward themselves with a croissant or some piece of food because they're a big foodie. So
Yeah.
find what you like and, reward yourself every now and then. And I think that's something good to help keep you pushing yourself forward.
You just read Alex Hormozy's book, and I think this quote comes from that book, maybe. I have the Audible book, so I'm not sure. But he says if more people would focus on being millionaires in the next 10 years than being a millionaire by the end of this year, a lot more people would be rich.
Yeah. He says...
Or something like that.
No, yeah, he says that, but he also says, I'd rather be rich for sure than be rich quick.
Yeah.
Or change your mindset from be rich for sure to be rich quick.
Yeah, which is I think
really
that's
like.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite parts of the book that I haven't finished it, but it's a really interesting thing to think about. It's like, yeah, not everything needs to happen as quickly as you'd like it to. And that's where hustle culture comes in. Yeah, you hustle, you work, you got to stay on the grind and stay motivated to grow your business, but do you really need to do it where your hair's falling out of your head? Probably not to the extreme that you see a lot of times on the internet.
Yeah. And especially you say that you're the hardest worker, out there, like no one works harder than me. We all have the same 24 hours in the day. So, you can't really be the hardest worker when there's someone else that could be working the exact same amount of hours. Yeah. And it depends on what you use to measure your hard work. Like, is what you measure, the amount of time on your phone or the amount of, output that you do or how much money you make, whatever you're classifying as hard work, maybe Jeff Bezos is the hardest worker because he gets the most money.
Yeah. Who decides what is hard work? You know what I mean? Yeah. I think Alex Peterson says, the very controversial Alex Peterson, some people love him, hate him. But he says, if hard work is all it took to be successful, everyone would be rich. And so a lot of people say, I work hard, but it's not all about working hard. You got to work smart sometimes too.
Do you believe that?
I think so, because a lot of people think, I work 80 hours. So many
lazy people.
Yeah, but like the people that are working hard, they're like, I work 80 hours a week. But it's like, yeah, but are you working smart while working hard? Or are you just doing 80 hours of work that doesn't get you anywhere? You know what I mean? Yeah, it's like, I work hard. It's like, okay, yeah, a lot of people work hard, but you're not strategically working hard.
How do you find yourself measuring strategic, moves that you're doing to move yourself forward? Do you try and focus on those, or how do you measure that?
I think it's two things. I think it's consistency and then the needle moving tasks, which is something we talk about a lot. It's obviously there's tasks that need to get done. I need to finish this client work, so they get this, I get paid, blah, 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 blah. And then there's the consistency of things that, let's say, like this podcast, we do it once a week. We have to do it. Staying consistent, I think, is a valuable skill for anybody in any field, in any industry. Maybe it's not even business. Doing something every single week, and that's what I've seen with the 3 podcasts, this one and the other 2. If you produce something every single week, you're going to start to be more disciplined. So even if you can do whatever it is in your business, just be consistent with something. That will train your brain to, make sure your business moves forward. If you're working really hard one week and then the next week you don't do shit, your business is going to be all over the place. It's going to fluctuate. The other one is the big tasks. So obviously there's client work for me where I got to finish the tasks. And then networking is one thing I really focus on, meeting more people, because the more people I meet, it's going to get me closer to my goal of, let's say it's being rich for sure. The more people I meet, the more opportunities that are going to arise, the more work that's going to come to me, the more ideas I'm going to have. And then the bigger tasks on the content creation side, which is super specific for my business, but what projects can I create that's going to give me the bigger projects down the road? So one thing I've been spitballing, and I posted something on Facebook the other day, is I want to film a long form documentary on something related to the Minot community, because one, that hits Minot people, which is in turn going to give me a lot of exposure, my name, that I worked on this project, if it's good. Obviously, if it sucks, then whatever. Two, it's going to show a super high quality piece of work, which I'm shooting for Netflix quality. Like I could sell it to Netflix. If I'm going to hit that, I don't know. I've never shot anything that long form, but I've watched a shit ton of Netflix. So hopefully in turn, I can kind of see some translations there. And then the third thing is, it's going to give me more of these projects down the future. If people know, oh, he does things like this, we can hire him to do that. So the idea is, in the 1920s, Minot was called Little Chicago, when apparently Al Capone was running alcohol through the tunnels of the city. So I'm piling a bunch of information, talking to a bunch of people, and seeing if this is even a story, if there's enough rumors out there, if there's enough, what do you call them? Conspiracy theorists that are like, oh, actually this happened. And if there's a story we can create, whether it's a 20, 30-minute video, 40-minute video, and create a story out of that. So that's kind of the next thing, where it's like, I want to move into that field eventually, but I've got to start getting the ball rolling on it.
That would be fun.
That was a very long
to
answer.
Netflix. Throw it on there.
Honestly, and that's something like a story like that could be Netflix worthy, but you got to shoot it on Netflix cameras, approved cameras, and all that stuff. So,
oh, do you?
Yeah,
maybe just throw it on YouTube.
Yeah, Netflix has an approved camera list. I could maybe sell it to Hulu. They got less standards than Netflix, I'm sure. But yeah, I mean that's the goal. So I know, okay, if I want to move into that world one day, I got to get started doing that stuff. And the same thing we talked about Vegas. If I want to be nationwide one day, well, you got to start getting clients that aren't in North Dakota.
I was thinking, because you're talking about a lot of stuff that you do, and I know your goal is like 250K. And I was thinking maybe where you're currently at, you're not able to get there because you're only focusing on yourself, and you're not willing to let go of some things for you to do other higher priority tasks to focus your time on.
Oh, 100%.
You know it too, but I'm not going to give it up.
Yeah. Well, and I want to, I had planned to hire someone at the end of last year. A couple jobs fell through, and I didn't know if I could support that person financially. Where I was like, okay, I probably could, but it's going to be a risk to do that. So I didn't want to put myself in those shoes, which sometimes it is good to put your back against the wall. But after those clients fell through, I was like, I better hold off. So I want to delegate these tasks, but then it comes to, what comes first, the chicken or the egg, right? Do I outsource all the stuff, or do I take that money on the back end so I can have it to grow the business? So it's, it's a toss up, and there are things I should delegate, and I'm going to start trying to delegate on future projects. But yeah, I mean, it is a very fine line you have to walk.
Yeah. You'll get there.
Trying to eventually. Hopefully. It was so close. Hopefully. It was this close. It was just a little so close.
At the end of the day, one of the times you're just gonna have to say screw the excuses and let's just go for it.
One day, once I pay off this credit card bill for redoing my whole goddamn basement for $1,500, it's a fun time. But yeah, that's the goal in the end. Hopefully get there in 2023. It won't happen in 2022 with a month and a half left, but 2023, that's an exciting time. Beginning of 2023, we're going to set new goals that we can shoot for. I missed the 250K. I can't imagine I'm going to get to that. I missed that one, but we're going to set a higher next year.
Maybe we just got to, be disciplined, be consistent, and stick to these things that we say we're going to do.
That, yeah, like our accountability phone calls. Sound. Dude, I'm bad with phone calls, all right? Leave me alone.
Yeah.
We'll get there.
We'll work on it.
We'll get there. So what else we got on our notes here?
I feel like that's about it. Yeah, I don't know if you have anything else that you want to add.
I don't think so. I mean,
on hustle culture.
No, I mean, I think it's something that you obviously got to hustle. If you're in your business, you got to hustle, you got to grind, but just do it smart. Don't burn yourself out. Burnout's going to happen whether you like it or not. You'll start to experience it, but try to manage it as best as you can and start doing high priority tasks instead of busy work. That's one thing I've learned.
I'll ask you this. How do you go about that? Because I heard a story about Damon John and how he was working nonstop to start up Fubu. He was, going to work and then he would come home, work on Fubu till like 2 a.m. and then he would wake up at 6 and then work on Fubu and then go to work and repeat that. I find I struggle with finding tasks to do. How do you go about that? Like, especially just starting out or where you're currently at, how do you go about finding tasks, those high priority tasks?
A lot of the
Or
tasks,
what you need to do.
yeah, and a lot of the things I find it's almost a domino effect that once you start doing stuff, more stuff comes to you that you need to do. So a lot of times, and that's the theory of kind of making your bed in the morning, right? Like you do the make your bed and then, okay, now I can move on to the next task, move on to the next task. Now, as far as formulating what you need to do, I think that varies a lot of the times. Like, what do I need to do right now? Well, figure out, do you have any impending tasks, deadlines that are coming up? If not, okay, move on to how are you going to get to what's your goal for the next 2 months, right? Okay, I want to start doing projects like this. Okay, maybe go shoot a spec ad like that. Or maybe do this. Or, I want to get into this industry. Okay, maybe start networking in that area. Figure out some ways you can network there. So I think it really depends on your goals. What are you looking to do? That will set your tasks. So I don't think there's a definite concrete answer, but that's kind of what I've found is that once I do all the things that need to be done, client work specifically, or, podcast, this has to be out by Monday. So we have to film it by Monday. Then you have a little bit more freedom to how are you going to get to the next phase of your business?
Yeah, I think it also depends on the business that you actually have. But I feel like one thing that might happen is you can't get to these tasks over here until you complete this one. And maybe once you complete this one task, it's going to free up like 5 other things that you can do. And once you have those, you can start tackling them.
100%. And I had a meeting with a guy today who does marketing and websites and stuff. And he said, hey, you don't do marketing and websites. You do video. I don't do video, but I do marketing websites. He's like, I have clients that want all of them. He's like, how about we just, if there's a client that wants it all, we just partner and then we offer all of those services instead of pushing other ways. So before I could even get to this next area of my business, whether I decide to go that way or not, which is offering all of these services, I first had to have this meeting. So that's kind of obviously the tasks delegated. But before I had the meeting, I had this guy on the podcast. So a lot of things, your tasks kind of just work themselves out. Now that's a shoddy example because, how do you go from podcast to meeting a guy to now you have this task? But a lot of times that goes back to what you said. You have to do one thing before you do the next thing.
Yeah, we'll break it down. So it's coming up with that idea, how you're going to get in front of them. Your idea was the podcast. How are we going to get them on the podcast? We're going to email them.
Yeah.
And then once we email them, we got to, stay in constant communication to get them on the podcast. Once we get them on the podcast, we talk, and then it just leads to that. So it's, starting at point A and then with the end goal in mind and figuring out how you're going to get there.
Reverse engineer it. So if you're like, hey, I want to partner with a website marketing company so we can offer packages together. Okay, what's the step before that? Meet a guy. How do you meet the guy? Podcast. How do you get the podcast? Email. How do you email? Sign up for an account. How do you sign up for an account? Go to school and figure it out. But yeah, it's reverse engineering everything. I try to reverse engineer everything I do in my business, in my life. It's like, okay, what's the goal? Let's strip that down. What are the tasks we need to get to that goal? So, all right, let's get into our business idea of the week. Tyler, take it away.
Easton. Okie doke. I came up with this idea. I was at the gym. It's a product idea. It might already exist. Who knows? A lot of these. So it involves a scale. And I feel like a lot of people don't want to look at the scale because they're scared of what their weight's going to be. And I know scales have Bluetooth connectivity now. So I was thinking, I don't know if they already have this, but instead of it showing your weight, you go on the first time and it's going to be like, okay, this is the weight I'm starting at. It's going to remember that. And then it's never going to show you what exactly you weigh. And then maybe each week, each month, whatever, you can weigh yourself and it's not going to show you your weight. It's going to show you +7 or -6, instead of showing the actual weight. So maybe it's not even a scale. It's just developing an app that allows you to track your weight, and then it just, shows your fluctuation and then starting point, and it's not even gonna have, maybe it'll be 0. Your starting point 0, and then it can go like up and down and down and down or whatever. So maybe it's just all an app. It's not even a scale.
Do you think that it would start? So let's say it's 150 pounds, and then the next day it says +7. Would the third day, would it be let's say the third day is -3? Would it be -3 from the 7? So it's like, okay, I was -3 from yesterday, or is it -3 from the day you started?
You could probably, I don't know. I don't know how I'm going to answer it if the app's already in existence or if we were planning on making it. But I feel like you could have settings to choose which one you want. You could maybe see from point A to last time you weighed yourself. So you could have 2 different sections where it's like,
okay,
this is the last time you weighed yourself, and this is the first time you weighed yourself. And, it just shows, your lifetime or since last time, whatever it might be.
What do we think the benefit is not seeing your weight? Just people don't want to see it?
Yeah, I think a lot of people just might be scared. And I don't know. I was just at the gym one time, and their scale is hidden in a back room, and especially at the wellness center at Minot State, their scale was kind of hidden away. But that's probably because they don't want people stealing it. But maybe that's the same thing with the gym here. But I feel like some people just, they don't want to. I don't want to single them out, but girls particularly don't like looking at their weight or saying what their weight is.
Yeah.
So maybe they, instead of them saying what they weigh, they're like, since I started working out, I'm down 17 pounds.
Yeah.
I'd feel more confident saying that instead of saying I'm at 150 or something.
Yeah. So then when you originally step on the scale, it doesn't tell you how much you weigh.
Exactly.
It just records it. Okay. So that's the part I was missing.
Oh, okay,
so you don't step on there, it says 150, and then you're like, oh, well, I can do the math
Fat
myself. If I'm up 7, then I'm 157. You know what I mean?
No.
So you step on there
you
and
never
remembers.
know the weight.
Okay.
You never know exactly what you weigh. So it's more for a specific audience because, like for me, I don't care if I see what I weigh. I like to see what I'm at so I can, put a number to it. But I feel like a lot of people, they don't like to see the number on the scale.
Oh, 100%. And it's not even like people that think they're, most people that don't think they're overweight, whether they are or not. But, it's not always people that are, really big. Maybe it's a girl that thinks she's too skinny. You know what I mean? Or maybe it's a guy that thinks he's too skinny. But I kind of do like that idea. Yeah. Now that I figured out that you don't originally see your weight. Before that, I was like, they're good enough math to be like, okay, -7. I'm 143 now. But yeah, that makes sense.
No, you never see it. Just because I feel like some people don't like to see their weight, and that they might, never step on a scale because they're scared of what the scale's going to say.
Yeah, I like that. I love this part of the podcast. We could have a list. 55 episodes in, we're like, God, we're the fucking smartest people on earth, and we haven't started one of these.
They're all going to the grave.
Yeah, it is, honestly. So we're just going to, like I said, we're going to start a section where it's, hey, you want a business idea? Go to this part of our website. There's all 59 of them. We've talked about one a week and go from there.
Yeah. And then you can maybe have different people in there too. So it's like person A, person B, person C.
Yep. I like that.
Multiple people in there.
Cool. All right.
I think it would just be an app. It wouldn't be a scale because I think scales are already Bluetooth connected. So I think it would be an app.
Yeah, but the app then, how would you track your weight the first time? You'd have to connect it to a scale or no?
Yeah.
You'd stand on your phone.
Yeah, you don't actually buy a scale.
You'd be like, all right, that's cool. Oh, it's like a lot of scales are like Bluetooth connected, just so you don't even have to like buy the same one.
Yeah, I think a lot of scales are starting to be Bluetooth connected. I'm pretty sure Riley has one.
Yeah, I have the old school scale where it's got the wheel. Yeah. And then you twist the bottom. You can like,
mine doesn't even have the wheel. It's got the needle.
Yeah, I got the needle, but on the bottom you can twist it where it's like it starts 2 pounds light.
I got that too.
Yeah. Those are my favorite. That feels true. That feels true to life. I don't trust that digital shit, man. I don't trust that.
I feel like it's probably more accurate.
Yeah, honestly, probably. But that is it's probably all we got for the episode, yeah?
Yeah, I think so.
Cool. If you guys I guess we say that in the outro, so I don't even have to say. Usually I just riff on the other podcast, like, hey, leave a rating review. But that's episode, is it 11? 10, 11. That's episode 11 of The Midnight Entrepreneur. If you have any questions you'd like us to cover or answer, you can email us at themidnightentrepreneur@gmail.com. If you found value in this content or found this entertaining, share this with a friend or post it on your story. If you really enjoyed the show, we'd love a rating and review on wherever you're listening. Talk to you guys next week for another episode of The Midnight Entrepreneur.